Welcome back to our AD 43 campaign. This is turn 8's recap, and what a turn it was. 2 massive battles and quite a few leaders wounded. And the campaign that we're using is found in the Shatter of Spears, Thunder of Chariots rulebook that I've released, and you can find that on my Ko-fi channel. So this was the position at the end of last turn. Everyone's sort of forming up, ready to go. The Romans orders were given that they were going to move down to the border in Artabates, and they were going to assault the main capital of Rata. The Britons, on the other hand, although the arrows aren't showing, won the initiative, and so their Cativalani forces preemptively struck against the Romans, whilst the forces down in Durotriges crossed the border and met with the Roman forces about halfway across. So that set us up for 2 quite large and potentially decisive battles for this turn, depending on the outcome. So first up, let's go and start with our Cativalani battle. This one's going to start off with 2 Roman legions, and then later on, at some sort of random time, the Trinovanti allies may come across, they might not, it depends on sort of the fog of war effect. So our first battle today, set in Cativalani territory. We've had the 2 Roman legions who've just set off from their camps, and coming against them, a surprise dawn assault by all of the Cativalani forces under Caraticus. He had the initiative this turn, so he slipped forwards, and his forces are falling upon the Romans. We've got Vespasian, and over there it's just generic Roman commander, because I think it was Geta or Galba, one of them, was killed in a previous turn, so we'll see how it goes. So we've jumped forwards to the end of turn 2, or should I say midway through turn 2, and so far what we've seen is the 2nd Legion advancing, their light infantry and cavalry making good progress. In the centre, the Roman Legion has more or less held its position and is just fanning out. The 2 cavalry units have just got to clash, or got to grips, and in the centre the light infantry are at each other. So we'll find out what happens this turn. And it'll be really, we've had the bolt thrower for the last couple of turns, but only minimal casualties. So after our shooting and combat, down at the bottom, the cavalry action, Caraticus leading from the front, have pushed back the Romans. They're still locked in combat, but they've been pushed back. Caraticus did take a wound, so yeah, some Roman commander, I guess, challenged him to some sort of single combat and managed to get a slice in, but that was about it there. In the centre, the Roman velites have just been pushed back as the barbarian horde continues its advance. So this turn saw the Roman cavalry charge. They rode down the light infantry of the Britons, and now they're stuck into the heavies. Quite a few casualties on both sides. The 2nd Legion has come up, almost forming the continuous Roman line. In the centre, the Britons' light infantry has forced back the Romans. Both have lost a base. On the wing, the Romans won their combat, but have now had heavy infantry swing round into their flank. So it's a bit of a mixed turn overall. So this turn has seen the full weight of most of the forces coming to grips. Down here, the Roman cavalry were overwhelmed. Caraticus again took another wound, but he survived, and the Romans were driven from the field. In the centre, the Britons have collided with the Romans along the whole length, light infantry, heavy infantry, with 1 Roman light infantry unit still standing. Up here, the cavalry weren't enough to break through the Briton line, and now this turn we've just seen an extra Briton heavy infantry moving onto their flank, whilst the 2nd heavy infantry unit is going after the Roman light infantry. So this turn saw the Roman cavalry ride forwards onto the bolt thrower and overwhelm it. Along the line, the heavy infantry of both sides are engaged. Roman legionaries pushed forwards and destroyed one of the light infantry. The 2nd Briton light infantry was actually very stubborn and didn't break. Over on this flank, the Roman cavalry were destroyed, along with one of their light infantry. So it was a pretty mixed turn. Overall casualties, though, went against the Britons, although they probably made slightly more progress this turn than the Romans. So this turn, again, was a mixed turn. It went in the favour of the Britons overall, but against them in the number of casualties they took. So starting from this end, the Britons, with their flanking forces, were able to push back the Romans. In the centre, the Romans held. The troops that went forwards last time were pushed back, and then again they held. And then on this side, the Romans pushed forward and finished off the enemy light infantry, but are now stuck in combat against the legionaries. So overall, yeah, it's kind of a mix. Sort of for pushing back the enemy, went in the Britons' favour, getting the flank. But for casualties, they did suffer heavily. It's quite lucky no one broke this turn. This turn saw really what's the saying? The paintings on the wall. The writing is on the wall. That's the one for the Britons. Unfortunately, although they were doing well in the centre, one of their units was wiped out, and then the second unit has routed. Luckily, it wasn't a chain reaction along the entire line. But then also down on this flank, this Roman unit pushed forwards again and overran the Britons' unit and destroyed them. So along the line, the Britons are in a bad state. Fighting over here, these two units have been pushed back, but they're still holding. But with the risk of the Trinovanti reinforcements arriving at some point behind them, this may be the turn that they decide to retreat. So yeah, after a quick chat, the Briton player is going to try and withdraw their forces as best they can, and see what they can do. We will use the rules in the rulebook to determine what the withdrawal casualties are, and then we will move on from there. But this one is firmly a Roman victory. So with that battle over, we're moving into Battle 2, which is going to be down in Archibald's territory, where we've got the remnants of 2 Roman legions and their allies crossing swords with the Durotriges and Silures. So this one, again, quite a large battle, and going to be quite a decisive one, depending on the outcome, could shape the future of the campaign. So the Roman light infantry and the Britons have surged towards each other, and a hail of javelins, arrows, and rocks plough into the ranks. On the far side, the Roman 2nd Legion, I think this one was Sabinus, has started its manoeuvre, the cavalry leading, followed by light infantry and then legionaries to flank around, which has been spotted by the Britons, who are forming up some sort of shield wall. And then as for our Cantiasi allies, they have split their forces, and one group are moving to the right, whilst the others are moving to the left to try and help support the flanks of the Romans. So a bit of a mixed turn. Down here, the Roman cavalry were forced back. The Velites were forced back in the centre. Just to the left of centre. In the centre, the Roman Velites were run down, and on their right, they were able to push the Britons back. Right over here on the Briton left, the cavalry were repulsed. So a real mixed turn there. But I think the Britons overall have the edge. Well, okay, that was quite a bloody turn. Down here, the overwhelming numbers now of Roman and Allied cavalry have pushed back the Britons. In the centre, the Romans have basically annihilated the light infantry of the Britons. And on this side, the last of the Roman light infantry was knocked out. As we move up to the far side, the Roman cavalry were destroyed, as were their light infantry. So overall, a good turn for the Britons, not so good for the Romans. So So starting in the top this turn, the Roman, well actually these are allied cavalry, were repulsed, and the legionaries are doing the knife work with the Britons at the moment, and that was a stalemate. So the infantry are still locked in combat, the cavalry have been forced back. As you move down, the Cantiasi were ordered forwards, but they didn't quite make it into contact. The Romans forced the Britons backwards. That was the light infantry of the Britons were overrun. Then the Britons had success in the middle, and 2 of their units forced back the Romans. Next door to them, the 2 Romans had the advantage and forced back the Britons. And then at the end, the Britons forced back the Cantiasi light infantry. So this was a brutal turn. The allied cavalry, having seen off the Siluries, charged back into the isolated Siluri infantry unit, and being surrounded by light infantry and cavalry, they were cut down. However, one of the light infantry and the cavalry was spent by the action. In the centre, the Romans had pushed back again, and the remaining 3 held. And on the right side, the right wing, the Britons did force the Romans back. Right on the far side again, the juggernaut of the 4 Briton units are pushing back the Romans slowly but surely. So on the right, the Romans are doing badly. On the left, the Romans are doing pretty well. So it's still anyone's game. So this turn saw the Romans up here actually stop the juggernaut. So they actually inflicted more casualties so they're still locked in combat, but at least they're not being forced back. Down here, the Romans destroyed one of the Briton units and forced the other back. Second unit, again, forced the Britons back. Here, trying to steady the line, the commander of the Siluries rode forwards to add extra support, and he has been cut down along with the whole unit. So they are out of it, with the Romans again having pushed forwards. And then they push forwards along the whole line. So Britain's a bad turn. Now we're going to roll for morale, because having lost their commander, it could be detrimental. And when I said detrimental, I meant devastating, and 3 of the 4 units on this wing have just given up and they're running for it. They've broken. So it's now going to be, I think, a fighting withdrawal for the Britons to see if they can manage to get those troops out without being completely encircled. So the order has been given for the Briton forces to withdraw, to try and get out of there with as much as possible. So again, we're going to be rolling to see what withdrawal casualties they take, if any, and we will go from there. But unfortunately, not a good turn for the Britons in either of their battles this turn. So unfortunately, that was a very painful turn for the Britons, and this is their sort of positions where they've been forced back to. Not looking good for the anti-Roman alliance at this stage. Who knows what the next turn will hold, but yeah, not a good situation for them to be in, unfortunately. So that's 2 victories to the Romans this turn, and 2 defeats for the Britons. So this is our strategic positions at the end of the turn. So if you want to vote on what we're doing next, head over to the YouTube page, the homepage, and go on to posts, and that's where I will post the different options for both sides. Also, head over to the Discord channel if you want to get a little bit more involved and work together, so you can join the Britons or the Romans, and you can come up with your own plans. You can speak to me behind the scenes on setting up ambushes, even assassination attempts. That's where you'll do that, so you can get a little bit more in detail if you wish to. The links are down in the description for all of the different locations. But anyway, again, the rules that we're using for fighting the battles and the campaign are my own. It's called Shatter of Spears. It's available on my Coffee channel, so please jump on over to there to get a copy of that so you can play along as we are, and also you can understand a bit more about all the dynamics of the campaign itself. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe so you won't miss out in the future, and go and check us out on the Facebook page so you'll also be kept updated. And until next time, just keep gaming. Thanks guys.